So today we're playing Spacewar. This is one of the games discussed this week, and I chose it because it's definitely a lot more advanced than some of the other games like Pong or some of the really early games. So what we're doing is I found this website, and it's basically hosting Spacewar as an emulation. So this is an actual emulation of the original PDP, or PDP-1 code. And that code was originally written by Stephen Russell. And 1961 was when he initially started writing the code. The version we're playing right now is the finalized version that was finalized in 1962. And then this site was made by Norbert Landstrom. I'll have it linked in the blog post. And so let's just get at it. It's relatively rudimentary, but when you kind of get into the physics of it, it's got some skill to it. So I'm this guy in the top right, and he's the one down below. So the first thing is that there's this thing in the middle here that's gravity in the corner. So you hit S to thrust, or down. Mm-hmm. So there's only 4 buttons, and what they would have had, I can kind of show you what it would have looked like. Is we can see them here, the controllers on the left and the right. This is kind of vaguely what it might have looked like, but they would have had 4 buttons, left, right, and then fire and thrust. So obviously we're playing with a keyboard. They definitely didn't have that. They just put them in a box. The other thing is, this game actually has physics to it. So that's one of the things is, if I'm traveling along, then my missiles have momentum, and if I'm going, my missiles actually kind of carry a little bit with the momentum of the ship. And there's, various things you can fly around. Eventually you run out of fuel and you run out of missiles, but the whole point is shoot at each other. And then you can also teleport by hitting left and right at the same time. That will put you in some random space on the screen, although it does come with a chance of you accidentally dying. Oh yeah, and the screen wraps. That's another thing that took a while to get my head wrapped around. And turns out I'm out of missiles. Or, no I'm not. They're just bad missiles. So
I'm out of missiles.
I'll get you.
Oh, it's a Taurus.
Yeah, so what this is, the playing field itself is actually rectangular, but the screen is a circle. And this is because this is actually emulating a CRT screen, like a really old one. And so that's the reason why we have the trails. So behind this thing would be a ray gun. CRT stands for cathode ray tube, and I'm assuming that's what it would just shoot cathode rays, or whatever they're called, at the back of this. Come on. And I'm out of missiles. It shoots cathode rays at the back of a chemical-coated screen. Oh, looks like we tied.
Impasse.
Because we ran out of missiles.
And fuel, it looks like.
So basically, I mean, it's a really simple game by modern standards, but there's some strategy to it, especially with like the different sizes of the ships and how you can dodge, certain maneuvering tactics, and the ships feel kind of bulky. and because of the speed of the ship, it it actually gives some weight to like this. Feels kind of like a big playing field. Yeah, got you. So this is actually running PDP-1 code, which is it's really cool, and it's running it in JavaScript. So there's actually a couple of different versions. Right now we're playing the 3.1, which is the finalized version, but then there's also the 4.8 version, which is something that you might find in a museum. And what it has is that it has a scoring button, and then it's also got a couple of other niceties to it. So I guess we'll just go until whoever wins. I think there's like a set limit on like the scoring setup. I don't know. I never hit it because it honestly takes a while to play this game. Oh yeah, you can shoot each other's missiles. That's the other thing. So the PDP-1, oh yeah, you teleported and it killed you. So the PDP-1 was, it was basically like it's like a commercialized version of MIT's computer. And actually, so the people who made this, Stephen Russell and some of his buddies, they were part of what was called then the MIT Tech Model Railway Club. Gotcha. So initially they would make all the switches for the MIT Model Railway Club, and this is something that they made in their spare time. So, and it actually ended up turning out to be quite successful as a game, and eventually, as the years went by and the PDP computers got cheaper, eventually people had the bright idea to put, again, more people from MIT had the idea to put something like this inside of a arcade console or whatnot and charge money for it. And so we'll see that later in history. Darn it. You'll see that later in history. This actually begins to be commercialized as the cost of computers comes down. Yeah, there's a little scoring screen. Nice. Very nice. I'm going to start off by teleporting. Let's see where that gets me. It's kind of weird to play this on a keyboard, and mostly because of the artificial button restrictions. Like, it's not actually sideways. You can't actually, it's because it's set up in a WASD style. So it's a little harder to navigate. Come on, die already, dang. Where are we at? Here, hold up. I want to see what is this for?
It'll show it in a second. 2 and 2.
So, oh yeah, also, go right for the middle there. You can also there's actually like decent physics to this. Like, it's not just like cheap physics, but like you crash into each other. And that'll actually end up resulting in the scored version in a tie. And this scored version, surprisingly enough, was made in 2005. So like, imagine you write a game and then 40 years later it's still being like updated. It still has like new DLC or whatever. It's kind of interesting that something that this old would survive this long, but it has. Ah, shucks. And it's really interesting to see, what these guys did in their spare time, and how much impact it had. Especially once computers got cheaper. So, and then, some of the other games around this time, Pong was definitely a huge one. That was definitely the first to be commercialized. Space Wars, I don't know if Space Wars ever got, commercialized in the modern sense of what we would think of. but I definitely, I thought that they had set up one, like, in their cafeteria somewhere. And, you know, people got quarters from it. So there's, you know, these games can last a while, and there's a lot of structure to it. Kind of feel like playing the Blue Danube right now.
Yeah, that's right.
I might do that in post. It's like just drifting around space. Although, actually, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is where that uses that the infamous or not infamous, the famous docking scene, which introduced using classical music. As like space music, that actually would have come out around this time, and there was a lot of interest in space, you know, especially with like the Cold War and Sputnik, you know, Russia and whatnot. So a lot of the guys at MIT were very interested in space. So, I wonder what the radius for the collision on the missiles is, you know? So I don't know that they're hitting each other head on.
Yeah, that's probably okay. That makes sense, because otherwise it would be almost impossible to
collide.
Yeah.
You can spin, and again, the CRT emulation, which is really, really fantastic, gets those CRT trails. Later, CRTs would get much better as the actual ray guns got faster. You could have less of a trail needed. I'm out of missiles. You need less of a trail in order to produce light. So basically what CRTs...
so am I.
Oh, we're just going to drift here in space forever.
People call this attack.
Okay, so... yeah, and it goes for a while. So that is Spacewar, been finalized in 1962. It's pretty, it's a pretty fun game. It's kind of slow, but you know they wouldn't have had ideas of like pacing or anything at this time. Yeah, it's just kind of it's just somebody's weekend project. It was kind of just a hobby rather than actual development. But even then, there's a decent amount of effort and thought put into this, into making it. It's quite fun. So that is all we have for this week. See you in the next one.